You're watching French Connections, our weekly look at all of the intricacies of life here in France with Florence Villeneuve. Hi, Flo. Today we're going to stay in Paris. Paris, of course, one of the top tourist destinations in the world. And two big monuments in Paris have two big birthdays this year, starting with the Eiffel Tower.
And let's start right away with our expression du jour, la grande dame. Now, that is the way that French people kind of lovingly refer to the Eiffel Tower, sometimes calling her la grande dame de fer, the big iron lady. Now, she was inaugurated on the 31st of March, 1889, and named after the engineer who designed her, Gustave Eiffel, and she was built for the 1889 World Fair, whose theme was the 100-year anniversary of the French Revolution. Now, it took 2 years to build the Eiffel Tower, and its construction was really an architectural feat. At the time it was built, it was the tallest monument in the world. It stood at 312 meters high, a record it kept for almost 4 decades. Now, its trademark shape has something to do with its longevity.
Why is it curved that way? To resist the wind. It blows hard at high altitudes and could knock the tower over. The best mathematical curve is this one. That's why the Eiffel Tower silhouette is so recognizable and unique.
Eiffel Tower inaugurated 130 years ago this year. And what's interesting is that if today it's become a global cultural icon, that was not at all the case when it was first built.
Absolutely. Initially, some of France's leading artists and intellectuals were outraged by the Eiffel Tower. They criticized its design, calling it useless and ugly. They said it was an erection in the middle of the capital. Now, what's interesting is the Eiffel Tower was only supposed to last for about 20 years, but she was actually saved from destruction by her creator, Gustave Eiffel, who used the tower to carry out all sorts of scientific experiments in radio frequency, optics, aerodynamics, etc. In fact, still today, there's a massive antenna on top of the Eiffel Tower, which made the tower a little bit bigger. Right now, it's 324 meters tall.
Now, these days, the Eiffel Tower attracts millions of visitors from all around the world, but not a lot of Parisians.
Well, of the nearly 7 million yearly visitors, only 2% are Parisians. I actually know a lot of Parisians who have never been to the top of the Eiffel Tower. It's outrageous. Now, once upon a time, the Eiffel Tower was actually the most visited monument in Paris, but she's been slipping in the ranking in recent years. These days, she's in 4th place behind Notre Dame, Montmartre, Sacré-Cœur, and the Louvre. But don't get me wrong, she's still very, very popular, and I'm not the only one who thinks she's the best monument in Paris.
It's definitely a symbol of Paris. It's something I want to see before I die, so to go up the tower is like something you have to do.
Just to see that much steel put together by man, and it's amazing.
It's the most important place to go.
I would like to go at the top.
There's another big birthday this year that focuses on the Louvre Museum. You're going to tell us a bit about that. Now, the Louvre, perhaps not the most visited monument in Paris, but it is certainly the most visited museum in the world.
In 2018, over 10 million people visited the Louvre, which is a record. Now, it's a real comeback for the museum and the city in general, which saw a real drop in tourism in the wake of the 2015 terrorist attacks. Now, part of the reason why the museum managed to stay in the game is because it's constantly reinventing itself, doing construction work to make circulation more fluid and waiting times shorter, though you'll still have to be patient if you want to see the Mona Lisa, and being tall helps as well.
I don't care how long I have to wait. I want to see it.
I can go near this picture
it's okay for you.
and can take picture.
It's moving. This is the birth of perspective.
I mentioned earlier there's a big birthday also at the Louvre, and that's for the iconic glass pyramid that was designed by the Chinese-American architect I.M. Pei. It was completed 30 years ago in 1989.
Now, the pyramid was part of a vast renovation project commissioned by the socialist president at the time, François Mitterrand. It was called the Grand Louvre, the Big Louvre, and the aim of this was to modernize the museum, pick it up, dust it off, and make it kind of the museum it is today. Let it spread its wings, if you will. Now, where the pyramid is was actually a big parking lot, and it was kind of a mirror image of what the museum was at the time, kind of a little bit run down, if you will. But change is a tricky thing in France, and so when you're changing such a historic place, as you can imagine, it provoked some outraged, and some people loved to hate the pyramid. Just listen to the Minister of Culture at the time, Jacques Lang.
Bonne idée, mais
Mitterrand wrote,
difficile.
great idea, but
La
like all great
définition
ideas, it's difficult.
Toutes les bonnes idées.
That's typical Mitterrand. Giving you the green light, but telling you that you're going to have to fight.
Mais on va se battre. Nous étions présentés comme des vandales.
They said we were vandals.
installions,
We were building modern architecture in Napoleon Square.
Sur cette cour Napoléon.
Now, thanks to the pyramid and everything that's underneath it, the Louvre managed to double its size and really become the modern museum that it is today. And it's interesting because 30 years later, it's a completely different story. It's now really one of the symbols of the capital and part of the photo, one of the photos that everyone wants to take home as a souvenir.
I don't know, just iconic. Everyone takes this photo.
Eiffel Tower, and this one is the most famous for me in Paris.
We love it, and we're proud of it.
So we really are proud of the pyramid and the Eiffel Tower, and this is going to have to be one of a series on tourism in Paris because, of course, there are so many more things to explore.
It certainly is. Happy 30th birthday to the pyramid at the Louvre. Happy 130th birthday to the Eiffel Tower. And Florence Villeneuve, thank you so much for that look at Paris and all of its wonderful monuments on this French Connections. If you have your own questions about France or the French, you can always tweet Flo at Flo Villeneuve.